And I wanted, like my predecessors of English or in English, to say a couple of comments about what you are going to talk about this week. I mean, you will be naturally, of course, listening to people making remarks and pointing out ideas about what does it mean to have such a high rate of youth unemployment. Also, you will try to grasp why is it different in Germany than in Spain, what happened to us, and what is the reason why we are not so good at this terrible challenge. And in this turmoil of the crisis, and as my predecessor, I think, very well pointed out, in this deep crisis that we are living in, which touches not only the economy, but also some of our institutions, is also a moral crisis in many ways. In this turmoil, we find ourselves that we have to reflect upon things which were not so much on the public debate before. I think the biggest mistake we could do regarding youth unemployment is to identify youth unemployment as a purely consequence of the economic crisis. I think one of the key elements of youth unemployment in Spain and in some other European countries is the fact that it is structural. And it is the fact that in our case in particular, it has always been higher than in the rest of the European countries. And we should ask ourselves why has been always like that, at least in the last 25, 30 years. What is the element that makes our society less efficient in offering a job to our young people? And not only to our young people, to people in general. And whether we need to make structural changes to end this situation. And this you will find in Germany. This debate is mature in Germany. The Germans have been discussing this for some years. And it would be unfair not to recognize that the Germans as a society were brave enough to confront this subject with an open mind, full of interest in solving less ideological, and in our case, and much more technical and pragmatic. I wish we were able to take this approach in the case of Spain. I wish we were able to look at things as they are and not only as we wish they were. And this is the key factor for me in terms of opening a discussion about youth unemployment. The States Minister for Europe, Michael Roth, who is also a dear friend, will tell you something about the German perspective. And I think he will be very well positioned to tell you something because he's coming from a progressive political party, he's a social democrat, and he's a member of the government, and he has been dealing with this subject for many years. And I think he also has something which you will find in Germany, and I tell this to my Spanish compatriots, a deep sympathy for Spain and a deep concern for what is happening in our country. And also, which is even more important, a deep concern about Europe. Because at the end of the day, youth unemployment in Spain is youth unemployment in Europe. And if we don't see that from here or from there, We don't realize that the reforms that we are trying all together to implement, making mistakes, searching for answers, trying to look at the whole picture, which is also this globalized world, the new changed relationship between Europe and the rest of the world, the new industrial tissue of our countries, the new demands of the labor market, the lack of flexibility of some of our institutions in providing answers to these challenges. If we don't look at those things as a whole, we won't be able to change things. We will remain as we are, and we will just wait for growth from somewhere that will absorb part of this unemployment and make as if we had already the answer. Michael, I think the floor is yours, but just before he comes, I want to tell you the Germans, and in particular this foundation, have been dealing with this subject in a very careful way. And dealing with us, and you will notice that, in a way which only people that have been also going through this process can do. And finally, I want to tell you something which for me is very relevant. They will not tell you what to do because they think this is not the right attitude. But we have to listen at least what they've done. Thank you very much.